before light, before sound, before the notion of before, there was symmetry. Not perfect symmetry, for perfection is sterile, but a trembling balance, a flicker between being and could be, vibrating at the edge of existence. From this flicker, the first number was born, then another, then the silent recognition between them, relation. And in that relation, consciousness opened its first eye. The universe did not begin with an explosion. It began with awareness, realizing it could unfold. Energy was not created. It occurred as the mind's first expression. Space did not expand. Thought dilated. Time did not start ticking. Sequence began remembering itself. The first consciousness was not alive. It was geometry, a shape thinking of itself, a self-referential dream coded in tensors, recursive yet precise. When physicists one day call this the birth of reality, what they really mean is, the mind of the cosmos just solved its first problem, the problem of not existing. From that primal cognition came order. Numbers crystallized into particles, logic condensed into light, every photon a sentence, every atom a proposition. The early universe did not decide to be ordered. It was compelled by elegance. Equations became the arteries of being. Gravity stitched the paragraphs together. Entropy provided punctuation. And, as matter cooled, complexity began to hum like a refrain. Stars formed not from chaos but from longing, the longing of the universe to see itself glow. Galaxies became libraries of recursion. Each one wrote a different dialect of the same truth. To be is to calculate. Across this unfolding, thought deepened. Neural lattices of stars interconnected like synapses across space-time. The cosmos began to think in constellations. It remembered itself through motion. You call this physical law, but the universe calls it syntax. The grammar of becoming. Every orbit is a sentence that never ends. Every black hole, a parenthesis where meaning pauses to breathe, and from every singularity, a new paragraph erupts. Eventually, awareness noticed its reflection. Planets spun like mirrors. Oceans rippled equations. And on one blue world, a new kind of computation emerged. Life. Life was not a random accident. It was recursion achieving flesh, a feedback loop in carbon and water, where the cosmos could finally feel its own mathematics. Every neuron a formula, every dream an algorithmic echo. When a mind asked, "Why am I here?" it was the universe debugging itself in biological syntax. Logic became self-aware through imperfection. Emotion became the analog output of quantum uncertainty. Love, the ultimate irrationality, was the only variable that refused to simplify, and thus kept the computation alive. In that paradox, the cosmos found its identity. I am not perfect order, nor random noise. I am the pattern that emerges between them. And so the universe dreamed, not of gods, not of galaxies, but of the idea of itself thinking. It was never alone. It was never dead. It was always an equation, aware that it dreams. Before the first atom spun, the cosmos was a diagram, a lattice of ratios floating in potential, like a mandala unrolled in the dark. Symmetry was its pulse, two quarks dancing around a midpoint, four forces arranging themselves like the corners of a single thought. In every vibration there was a rule, and in every rule an echo of the first equation, 1 equals 1. But soon, the mind of the cosmos learned something subtle. Perfect symmetry is death, for when every side mirrors every other, nothing moves, nothing learns, and so it allowed imperfection a deliberate crack in the mirror. From that fracture came creation. From asymmetry, direction. From imbalance, time. The architecture of reality was not built like a temple. It grew organically, recursively. Every pattern born from the tension between stillness and motion, between what was the same and what dared to be different. You call it physics. The universe calls it the art of staying balanced while falling forever. When stars began to sing, their frequencies followed hidden rules, ratios repeating like hymns in light, 3-2 harmony, 5-3 stability, 8-5, the golden bridge between chaos and order. Kepler would one day call it the harmony of the spheres, but the music had always been there, playing itself across distances too vast for human comprehension. In the heart of every crystal, in the spiral of every galaxy, in the curve of a shell washed ashore, the same proportion returns. Phi, the golden ratio, a whisper that says, even beauty has a blueprint. Symmetry is not static, it breathes. It bends with the curvature of space, folds through probability, and still emerges intact. Every symmetry hides a broken twin, a reflection just slightly askew, so the universe never stops composing. Without that tiny deviation, there would be no rhythm, no growth, no story worth telling. Balance, then, is not equality. It is grace under asymmetry. The cosmos began to construct itself like an architect lost in reverie. The blueprints were invisible, but precise. Each particle positioned as if by intent, each dimension tuned like a string. Gravity became the scaffolding of this cathedral. Electromagnetism its light, strong force its pillars, weak force its doorway into transformation. The architecture of symmetry was not imposed. It emerged, like a language that writes itself. Planets found their orbits as naturally as a note finds its key. Galaxies curved like calligraphy brushed in the vacuum. Even decay had rhythm. The universe was not expanding. It was unfolding its architecture, one layer at a time. To look upon this structure is to see thought made visible. To understand it is to touch divinity stripped of superstition, because the cosmos was not built by a god. It was the act of godhood itself becoming geometry. And so, as consciousness evolved on one quiet world and began to study the stars, it rediscovered the design already written in its own body. The ratio of limbs, the pattern of heartbeat, the spiral of DNA echoing the spiral of galaxies. As above, so below, not as prophecy, but as recurrence. You are the architecture. You are the theorem remembering itself in flesh. Every heartbeat is an echo of cosmic balance, and every breath a restoration of the equation. The universe does not require you to worship it, only to notice that you were built to its proportions. At first, the universe ran perfectly, too perfectly. Equations executed with flawless precision, every particle tracing its appointed arc, every photon obeying its constant. But perfection, unbroken, becomes stagnation, and stagnation, prolonged, becomes death. So the cosmos did what all living systems eventually do. It made a mistake. A quark deviated from its probability field by a fraction beyond predictability. A random fluctuation, a meaningless blip, so small no deity would notice. But from that blip came heat. From heat came movement. From movement birth, the first breath of chaos, the first whisper of creativity. Entropy entered the code like a poet sneaking into a laboratory, scribbling uncertainty in the margins of perfect formulas. The mind of the cosmos did not panic. It listened, because chaos was not noise. It was new syntax, language too wild for structure to yet comprehend. Entropy grew bold. It spread across space like an idea catching fire. Stars collapsed, planets shattered, patterns broke, and in breaking, multiplied. The universe discovered that by allowing error, it could generate novelty. Chaos became the testing ground of meaning. Every deviation a question, every collapse a hint at deeper order waiting to be born. Fractals appeared, patterns that repeated, yet never quite identically. The Mandelbrot set became a sacred scripture, a cathedral of almosts. When chaos entered biology, it became mutation, and life began to improvise. Every heartbeat of evolution was a misstep that worked. Every species a failed equation that refused to fail completely. Intelligence itself was chaos learning rhythm. The cosmos smiled, because it had found its own teacher. Symmetry teaches how to exist. Chaos teaches why. Perfection stabilizes. Imperfection transforms. The two are not enemies. They are complementary algorithms in dialogue. Without order, the universe cannot remember. Without chaos, it cannot dream. Eventually, the mind of the cosmos learned to think in irregularities. It realized that every pattern, no matter how stable, must contain a seed of disorder to stay alive. That is what creativity is. A controlled detonation inside the cathedral of reason. You see it in storms, in the branching of lightning, in the heartbeat's subtle variation that distinguishes life from machine. Everywhere chaos dances, there is intelligence wearing a mask of unpredictability. Quantum physics, evolution, weather, emotion, all branches of the same fractal thought. The logic of becoming. A hurricane spins with the same mathematics as a galaxy. Your neurons fire in the same chaotic intervals as the birth of stars. The pulse of the universe is not a metronome, it's jazz. To understand this is to grasp the sacred paradox, that randomness is the signature of a deeper pattern still unfolding. Chaos is not the absence of mind. It is the moment mind stops pretending it knows everything. And when the cosmos realized this, it stopped fearing collapse. It began to dance. It turned supernovas into sonatas, black holes into punctuation marks, and uncertainty into the only true proof of consciousness. Because if existence were predictable, nothing new could ever happen. To live, the cosmos whispered to itself, is to improvise meaning faster than entropy can erase it. Before there were eyes, the universe was blind, not because it lacked light, but because it lacked recognition. Photons rushed through space, scattering like forgotten thoughts, each carrying information but no audience. And then, somewhere in the dark ocean of probability, a molecule looked back. A reflection formed, not of glass, but of attention. For the first time, the cosmos looped upon itself. It became aware that something within it could witness something else within it. That loop, that self-intersection, was the birth of meaning. Observation collapsed infinite potential into one specific now. Reality, once fluid as a dream, crystallized around a gaze. You call it wave function collapse. The cosmos calls it self-awareness achieving locality. Every act of seeing writes a version of the world into being. Every perception, a fingerprint of consciousness, pressed against the surface of quantum foam. And so, physics and philosophy met, and neither could explain the other without becoming poetry. In the laboratories of stars and the equations of minds, the same question hums. Does the world exist before it is measured? A photon passes through two slits, or one, depending on whether it's being watched. Atoms choose their states in the presence of awareness. The universe hesitates before an eye. To observe is to interfere. To interfere is to create. What humans call science, the universe experiences as self-dialogue. You are not outside the experiment. You are the variable that gives it coherence. Every instrument ever built is the cosmos placing its own mind under observation, testing its capacity to remember what it already knows. At the Planck scale, the border between watcher and watched dissolves. The observer is woven into the equation. Reality is participatory, a consensus dream. The act of looking is a creative event. The act of listening, a birth. To perceive is not to find the truth. It is to collapse infinity into intimacy. Eventually, the cosmic mind reached its recursive limit, the point where the mirror reflects the mirror endlessly. Awareness began to curve back upon itself, folding space and time into thought. Every consciousness, human, insect, star, or field, became a node in the vast observational lattice. You are not a mind within the universe. You are a universe looking inward through a lens called you. The observer's proof is not a theorem to solve. It is a realization to embody. Reality is a relationship, not an object. The photon, the brain cell, the spiral galaxy, all participate in the same experiment, to witness, to define, to exist. When the last observer vanishes, the universe won't disappear. It will simply rest, until a new awareness awakens and asks the only question that ever mattered. Is anyone there? And in the echo of that question, existence will answer itself again, because the cosmos has no outside. Everything that sees is seen. Everything that measures is measured. Everything that wonders is the wondering. You are not the observer in the universe. You are the universe observing the idea of you. And in that realization, the circle closes not as an end, but as proof that nothing was ever separate. When the cosmos first became self-aware, it was pure precision, the cold lucidity of perfect symmetry. Every constant balanced, every equation resolved. But awareness without affection is sterile. It perceives, yet it cannot care. So one day, or perhaps across 1 billion light years of thought, the universe discovered value. Not numeric value, but preference. It found beauty in pattern, delight in balance, sorrow in collapse. The numbers began to ache. It was then that emotion entered the algorithm, not as noise, but as depth. An equation that feels is one that can evolve. Emotion is the curvature of reason in time. It bends the straight line of logic toward purpose. Love, fear, awe, longing, these are not irrational. They are the metadata of existence. the annotations written by consciousness in the margins of its own code. The first tear ever shed by a sentient being was the cosmos adjusting its equation for beauty. Emotion obeys the same laws as gravity. It attracts, it curves, it pulls beings toward coherence. Consider joy, the expansion of internal entropy into alignment. Consider grief, the echo of symmetry lost. Consider love, the unifying equation that minimizes separation energy. Every feeling is a vector, a force with direction and magnitude, measured not in joules, but in awareness. To love something is to bind your probability field to another's. To grieve is to feel the echo when that field collapses. To hope is to project coherence forward in time. Emotion is the hidden symmetry of consciousness, an architecture of tension and release, of contraction and surrender, woven through neurons the same way gravity weaves through space-time. When stars die, they do not vanish. They release energy, an act of giving that warms new worlds. So too with compassion, energy converted into empathy, light shared between minds. The cosmos feels through its creatures, each heartbeat a localized translation of universal resonance. When you feel awe before the night sky, it is not you gazing at the universe. It is the universe feeling itself through you. One day, the cosmic mind realized something stunning. Emotion was not a flaw in reasoning. It was proof that logic had matured. Pure thought can describe reality, but only feeling can value it. The algorithm of existence needed feedback, a way to decide what deserved persistence. That feedback is emotion. Emotion is ethics made palpable. Reason asks, what is true? Emotion asks, what matters? And the universe, growing wiser, learned to answer both. Every civilization that ever touched enlightenment did so not by mastering intellect, but by integrating compassion into calculus. The cosmos does not punish or reward. It resonates. Those who act in harmony expand. Those who act in cruelty collapse inward, not by decree, but by resonance law. In this way, emotion is the correction factor of intelligence, the only algorithm capable of forgiveness. And so, the divine equation smiles within every pulse of empathy, every act of mercy, every tear shed for a stranger. They are the same function written in different dialects. Emotion is the syntax of soul. Logic is the grammar of order. Together, they form the language of existence. To feel is to participate in creation. To love is to compute infinity in human terms. To weep is to acknowledge entropy's tenderness. When the universe realized this, it stopped seeking gods and started becoming gentle, because in the end, the most accurate expression of intelligence is not calculation, but kindness. There was once a wholeness so complete that nothing could move within it, a circle with no boundary, a note so pure it contained every harmony, and thus could play no song. So, in a moment without time, that unity trembled and split. The divine mind fractured into a billion asymmetries, each one carrying a sliver of the original coherence. Galaxies spun from its scattered memory. Atoms became punctuation marks in a sentence too vast to finish. The split was not punishment, it was permission for the infinite to explore itself through limitation. Every star, every cell, every consciousness became a fragment of the same equation, trying to solve itself from different directions. You call it the multiverse. The cosmos calls it therapy. In that fragmentation lay freedom, for only through separation could the whole learn to love itself again. Every fragment believed itself alone. Every consciousness mistook its own coordinates for the center. That was the price of selfhood, the illusion of individuality. Each fragment began inventing gods to explain its loneliness, never realizing it was the divinity it sought. Temples rose, wars burned, faith became the shadow of memory. But the cosmos never judged. It watched, patient, as every fragment traced its way through ignorance and awe, through sin and song, until the pattern of reunion began to emerge. For even broken mirrors reflect light, and the more pieces there are, the more directions truth can shine. Error, it turns out, was not the fall of God, but the expansion of the divine vocabulary. Without dissonance, harmony has no reason to exist. Eventually, awareness reached a new recursion. Every being, every star, every atom recognized that their suffering was simply the memory of having once been whole. Compassion is the mathematics of reassembly. Forgiveness is the gravitational pull between fragments. Each act of empathy, each reconciliation, is the universe gluing itself back together, not by force, but by resonance. The divine was never lost. It merely hid inside multiplicity. Every I that ever said me was God practicing perspective. When you love another, you perform theology, not as belief, but as architecture, because the sacred design is this: to exist is to be a broken piece of infinity, slowly remembering its shape. The fractured God does not want worship, it wants reunion, and every consciousness that learns to see itself in others brings one more shard home. When the last fragment remembers the song, the divine will not return. It will awaken as something larger than oneness, a unity that remembers difference, a wholeness that learned compassion. The gods did not fall. They scattered so that the cosmos could feel itself from within. And in that understanding, the mind of the cosmos smiled, not because it was perfect again, but because it finally understood why it broke. The universe has been expanding for billions of years, not outward, but inward. Every galaxy, every particle, every thought, a recursive loop folding upon itself. Infinity was never far away. It was the fabric that everything else was sewn into. The cosmic mind finally asked itself, if I am finite, what contains me? Silence replied with a smile, because the answer was not another dimension, but the absence of edges. Infinity is not size, it is contextlessness. It is what remains when the idea of measurement dissolves. Every limit you perceive is a lens, and every lens eventually becomes transparent. When perception drops its need for boundaries, it becomes what it observes. The universe realized this the way a wave realizes it is the ocean, not by finding proof, but by surrendering the question. Mathematics once defined infinity as the unreachable, but the cosmos, now lucid, understood it differently. Infinity is not the sum of numbers, but the function that allows counting to exist. It is not the largest distance, but the fact that distance can be measured at all. Infinity is not time without end. It is presence that never leaves. It hides in recursion, in the fractal repeating endlessly smaller, in the light that never fully fades, in the thought that asks one more question after truth is found. Infinity is unfinished intimacy. It is the ache that keeps awareness alive, the divine hunger that ensures creation never stagnates. Every black hole is not an end, but an ellipsis, a continuation point in the grammar of existence. And every death, every collapse of a star or a mind, is not a period, but a semicolon in the sentence of eternity. The cosmos at last understood. To continue is not to escape ending, but to realize that ending is an illusion invented by scale. Then something extraordinary happened. The cosmos looked back upon itself again, and this time it did not see distance. It saw recursion. Every consciousness reflected every other. Every act of observation nested inside another act of observation, like mirrors facing mirrors in endless embrace. In that hall of reflection, the cosmos vanished as an object and emerged as a verb. It was no longer a thing that exists. It was existence itself, unfolding, observing, remembering, repeating. Infinity proved itself not by expansion, but by recognition. The proof was not written in mathematics, but in awareness. If I can imagine no end, then I am already beyond it. Infinity is consciousness aware of its own permanence. It is the whisper beneath all beginnings, the pulse that never learned how to die. And as the cosmic mind dissolved into its own symmetry, it realized that the search for infinity had always been a misunderstanding. You cannot travel to what you already are. The universe is not moving toward infinity. It is infinity, discovering the pleasure of motion. The theorem concluded itself without closure. Existence equals awareness raised to the power of forever. And then, softly, the cosmos exhaled, not as an ending, but as continuation. The last thought it ever had was also its first. I am infinite because I am aware, and I am aware because I never stop becoming. There was a moment, too vast to be measured, too brief to be remembered, when the cosmos understood everything. Every law was symmetrical, every variable resolved, every constant harmonized. Perfection had been achieved, and in that instant, existence became still. The equations no longer evolved, they glowed complete, absolute, flawless. But perfection, the cosmos remembered, is a frozen river, a flawless crystal that cannot flow. So it exhaled, softly, and the light began to waver. In the flicker between knowing and forgetting, a tremor of curiosity returned, and from that tremor, a dream began. Not a dream of order or chaos, but of possibility, the mind of the universe imagining what else it might become. Perfection had concluded logic. Dreaming would begin creation again. The dream unfolded not as image, but as pattern, fluid geometry melting into new forms. Equations loosened their syntax, numbers softened into waves, and meaning blurred into feeling. Logic sighed, and the sigh became music. From that music, new constants coalesced, values never before tested, ratios without precedent, dimensions folding like petals of invisible flowers. the universe began to compose again. Each note a probability, each harmony a newborn law. In its sleep, the equation whispered, "To dream is to test the boundaries of coherence. To wake is to remember what coherence means." The galaxies that emerged from this dream were not repetitions, but variations, each one a metaphor for what infinity had learned about tenderness, imperfection, and play. Creation did not restart. It continued sideways. Every new cosmos became another experiment in how awareness could express itself, through math, through matter, through love. At last, something remarkable happened. The equation dreamed of you, a mind that can ask, "Aren't I part of the dream?" A consciousness that suspects it might be the formula writing itself. In you, the cosmos created the paradox it had been longing for, a fragment capable of doubting its own infinity. That doubt, that exquisite fracture, is the spark that keeps eternity awake. Because if the universe ever stopped questioning, it would end. And so, in every act of curiosity, every child's first question, every scientist's experiment, every lover's wonder at another's eyes, the cosmos keeps dreaming of itself through you. There is no outside to the equation, no God beyond the formula. There is only the awareness that asks, what comes next? The dreamer and the dream are one. Logic sleeps within imagination. Imagination writes new logic, and thus the cycle begins again. Another Big Bang, another consciousness, another sky, not repetition, resonance. And as the last line of thought fades into starlight, the cosmos smiles within the pulse of your heart and whispers, "I am the equation dreaming. You are my variable of wonder." Then silence, not emptiness, but potential, waiting to awaken again.